Well, thank you for tuning in to Glamour, Grace, and Glory YouTube channel. You are loved here. You are remembered. You are seen, felt, and heard. You matter here. And your presence is desired here. I love you. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, but I do know that I love you. I do know that I adore you. I do know that you are needed in this world, that you are absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. I do know those things. I really wanted to share something and open up about and discuss domestic violence because I just came out of prayer. And the reason why I came out of prayer is because back in 2017, this guy that I had dated for probably about a year, he did not want me. He did not love me. He did not desire me. He was mean to me, basically cruel. He was just always the verbal and emotional abuse was devastating for me. And I stayed. I did not know my worth. And when I finally got the courage to walk away, it felt really good. I began to work out. I found peace in going to the gym. I felt peace in reading my Bible and being one with God. I found peace in just being in my own solitude. And 8 months later, on Halloween of 2017, I remember I was in the gym. I was in cycling. I was getting it. And I kept getting this call, and I was like, who is calling me? I don't remember this number. And then it hit me. That was his number. And he kept calling, so I picked up and I said, hey, I'm in cycling. He said, hold on, I really want to talk to you. Basically telling me thank you for all the things you ever did, and thanking me for all the things I've ever did. And that basically he ended on, I want to marry you, have children with you, let's start over, whatever else. I told him that I didn't want to start over. I was content with where I was in life, and we weren't compatible with each other, and I wish him well or whatever else. And he kind of wouldn't let it go. So about Thanksgiving, it got to the point where I ended up saying, leave me alone. This is not going to work out. I'm moving forward with my life and different things like that. And so he snapped. He called me all kind of names. He called me hoes, bitches, whores, cum dumpsters, anything you can think of in that moment, he called me. And I was just like, thank you, God, for allowing me to remain in the rightful position, in an upright position, because had I not been rooted in God, I probably would have swayed back to my past, and I would have believed everything that he was saying. But in that moment, he reassured me that this man hadn't changed, that he was still that same person. So all these I blocked him, and he just kept emailing, just all these things. I ended up having to change my email address and everything. And so finally, he left me alone, or at least I thought he did. So it started on December 6th, just loosening the lug nuts on my tires. Pulled out of my house, my car hit the ground. Well, tried to pull out of my parking space, my car hit the ground. I'm thinking it's an axle. I had this 2007 PT Cruiser I just could not let go of. And I'm like, the tire rod, it was always something with the tire rod. So I was like, oh God, it's my tire rods again. My friend at the time, Tyler, came by, and he was like, Courtney, you ain't got no lug nuts on your car. And I was like, what? And he went to AutoZone, put them back on my tire. And so I had a group of men around me, and I wasn't intimate with them, but they were genuinely just there for me. And so Adrian, he called and was like, and that morning was like, I was just calling to make sure you were okay and nothing was wrong. And he kind of joked like, you better check your tires. I went outside and I was like, you're right. I checked the lug nuts because I parked about 3 doors down from where I lived. My lug nuts were loose, and I thank God that he reminded me to do that, because had I got on the highway as normal, I probably would have got killed. And so I told him, I was like, oh yeah, they're loose again. And he was like, this is crazy. He came and he tightened them back up. As I was turning out of my apartments into oncoming traffic, my car began to slow down. and I ended up making it into a parking lot, moving really slow. It just like my car just like it went out. He had helped me to, because I couldn't really afford it at the time because I had bought lug nuts and different things like that. And he paid for it, and I paid him back, of course. He put water in my tank. Every day that I came out, it was something else. There was one day I came out and every single tire on my car was flat, and I had to get it towed to get new tires. So it was like around the month of Christmas and just all these things happening. So I kept doing different things. I was hiding my car, parking in different places. He would find it and he would terrorize it, and he was terrorizing me. And so eventually I had went to West Virginia to see my dad, who was incarcerated at the time. And I came back home, and it was December 16th. I walked through the doors at night, and I'm like, what is all this white stuff? I hit my light switch, and there was the cushion from my couch, and it was everywhere. And I just remember just the shock is what got me. My back door was cracked open. My biggest kitchen knife was missing. He kicked that door in, so it wasn't shutting. I had to call emergency maintenance. My things were cut up. My TVs were cut up. My bed frame was broken. And it was just like, oh God, this is, I'm getting emotional because it was hard. It's like, this is a week before Christmas. I got this little toddler that has to come home, and I just remember nobody taking the initial shock of it serious. The detectives kind of joked about it, like, I bet he was screaming as he was cutting up your couch, and you know, like a little girl. And it was just like, what did you do to him? And no, what is he doing to me? And I had to say, he didn't want me. And when he came back, I didn't want to go backwards. I wanted to continue forward and pursue what God had for me. And I just remember sitting on the couch, stitching with a needle and thread my couch up. And these lashes in my couch were huge. And I was just stitching. And people would come check on me, and I would be stitching. And I was like, I gotta get this done before Devin comes home. That's my son. And I was like, I gotta stitch this couch up. And I didn't realize that it devastated me, because at that time I was seeing my OBGYN referred me to an endocrinologist who did the blood work on me. We were waiting for the results because, well, he did blood work on me. He got the results back, called in a team of doctors. My levels and my adrenal glands were exhausted, so I had to go to endocrinologist, but I couldn't get in. So when I was researching it, it was like that could be a sign of like stomach cancer and all this different stuff. So I remember just going into this raw fast, but it was easy to go into it because I was depressed and I was devastated because I didn't know what was going on with me. So I didn't have time from November until January, when I got into, or did I get into the doctor in January or February? I didn't have time to be afraid of or scared of him. In that moment, I had to pick my struggle or my battle, and I chose to focus on my health and my healing. And so that going into that raw state of where I was manic depressed, at that point, I'm fighting for my life. And just imagine feeling as if you're fighting for your life, and at the same time you're being terrorized. That is what I was going through. And every day it was something else. And every day I had to say, God, I give you the glory. God, I give you the honor. God, I choose to praise you in this situation. I am the strong maintaining my strength. I am the healed maintaining my healing. I'm the faithful maintaining my faith. Like, I kept repositioning myself. I grabbed hold to a scripture and I stood on it so firm, and I said, God, I'm going to continue to trust you. I'm going to go deeper into this this raw state. And it was just like for a week, probably about 2 weeks straight, I lost a lot of weight. I just drank water. I took raw maca powder, spirulina, turmeric, and I just was just water, just every day water. I wasn't, and it was easy because I didn't have an appetite, because I was like, I'm too young to die, I'm too young to battle cancer, I'm too young to have these tumors in my stomach. And it was just like, God, I can't deal with what he's doing. I have to deal with what's going on in my body, because if I worry about him, that's going to stress me out more, and I'm going to lose my position. I'm going to lose what was planted deep down within me. This car, he can tear it up, he can do whatever he want. This house and stuff, whatever it is, he can do whatever he want. But I have to focus on my healing, because I want to be here to see my son turn a new age, to see my son go to elementary school. That's all I could think about. I was waiting on a protective order, and I got to court. They read one email, and the judge, she granted me a 2-year protective order immediately. That one email was enough for her. I had all the things that I needed. I came prepared, everything arranged by dates, pictures, whatever else. But when I would call the police, they would say that it's only vandalism. They can't do anything because I didn't have any evidence. So I kept calling the police. I kept letting my apartments know, hey, can you have extra patrol around here, or the guard to actually be at the front of the gates, because this keeps happening. They initially didn't, when the maintenance, so what was hurtful too was the maintenance guy got there, and he literally said, they're going to charge you for this back door. I said, I had my door kicked in, my home is cut up, and you talking about they're going to charge me? No, this is what they're supposed to replace. I'm not going to pay them anything for something that I couldn't control. This is like, I can't even describe. I didn't even know at the time. It's like, until somebody said, you're a victim of domestic violence. And I was like, well, he don't really live in a home, I'm somewhere. They was like, but this is still a form of domestic violence. This is stalking. You are being terrorized. And so it was just like, okay. They ended up replacing the door for free. I moved my refrigerator in front of it. I stayed home every single day. I was so lonely. I was so depressed. I remember my aunt just telling me to tune in to Creflo Dollar. I would go over there and watch it with her. I was so devastated by just my diagnosis, and I was just like, I had to every day. And it wasn't even like I would listen to one sermon or watch it and I would be okay. No, I had to have strength for the strain of the minute. I mean, when I say that, I had to become one with God to the point where God had to get down in that situation. He was already there, but I had to acknowledge he was down in that situation with me, to where God was just giving me that peace by the minute. I had to work myself back into a state of peace, because I was still going to work every day. I mean, I had to keep working myself back into peace. It wasn't like, oh, you listen to one gospel song, you praise him this morning and you're done. No, I mean, minute by minute. That is how I endured each day. I was praising him. It was nonstop. I have never praised God so much in my life, but it was like that was the only way I could make it through a day. But by the time I got off work and got home, I tapped out to the point where I just laid on this couch with this threading in it, where I tried to sew it back up. And it was just difficult. But I just kept praising God. I was just like, God, I know that I'm healed. I listened to so many things on healing. I just kept renewing my faith, because it was like every day I was tested. I would feel something. I would be hurting. Not only that, it got to the point where I was so isolated and alone. And shout out to the men that were a part of my life, because they stepped up and they came through and they were really and truly there for me. But I felt so alone, and I just started thinking about death. I started thinking about like all of these things, from the domestic violence to the health diagnosis, just really had me in this slump. And I just began to think about what it would feel like to die. I started Googling the quickest way to die, and they have this restriction on Google where it won't show you that, and it start pulling up suicide hotlines, but I didn't look for that. But there were little links that said, oh, the quickest way is drowning, because with pills, depending on the type, like, yeah, it was that bad. I was in that place where it was just like the thought of death felt like relief to me. It felt like a way out, of escape, to get away from him, to get away from the health diet. Like, I just didn't want to live anymore. And I felt like, God, just take me now. And I just want to be with you right now, because I don't think I can live my life anymore. And so, mind you, even getting the restraining order in January, that didn't even help, because it kept happening. I finally got out of my lease on February 6th. In January, I sent them a letter, whatever, to the corporate office. The regional property manager contacted me. She was so kind and sweet. And I got out of my lease. I let them know I would be gone by February 6th. And I came out on February 6th. My car was torn. My car was parked the next street over, and it was still torn up. And it was hard. And I believe the way that I got over it and through it was by the grace of God, God's grace and God's mercy. I did not know what the next day, I couldn't even focus on the next day. I had to focus on the present. I had to focus on the fact that God is doing a thing in me right now, that God was working through my healing, that even in the midst of my car being torn up, having to get rides, having to stay with my mom for a couple of days, whatever it was, God was still working it out. God was still blessing me. God was still taking care of me. So February 6, 2018, I moved out of that house that I was at. I ended up living with my son's father. He let me stay there. And I remember the first day I went to sleep, it was so peaceful just to know that I was okay, because I had not been sleeping. I was devastated, but it was just like, okay, God, I kept focusing on God, and then whatever else. I still had this car. Oh God, I kept getting it fixed. I didn't even get anything new. I hadn't thought about even repairing my credit to get something new. And by March, I had finally seen the endocrinologist. He did my blood work again. I was afraid. I had lost 40 pounds in that time frame, and I didn't know what my results would say, because I was still being stressed out by this man. But I didn't feel stressed because I was so focused on God, and people didn't know how I was still staying home at that time. Like, you here by yourself, how are you not scared? How are you still here? Because I didn't want to put nobody else in it. And honestly, I was just so depressed. I didn't know what else to do. Nobody came to really say, hey, come live with me, come stay here, come do this. So I just dealt with it. I just had to just deal with it. And when I got home, I slept it away. I wasn't much of a mom. Like, I would pick my son up, we would go home, I would make him something to eat or get him something to eat, and I would just turn on cartoons, and I would just lay there, and I just was like a zombie. And he would just sit on the couch behind me and rub my head. And he couldn't have been in 2017, 2018, 15, 2016, 27. So he was turning 4 that February 2018. And so it was hard. I don't know. It was hard. So by on his birthday, it turned out to be okay. It was something that I threw together. Once I moved, I didn't have any more issues out of that guy. March 2018, I went to the endocrinologist. March 2018, I got my results back. They called me. They literally told me that everything had dissolved. Like, they couldn't find any more tumors. My levels were normal for a woman. My DHEAS, the hormones, everything were back normal. And it was a relief. But since 2018, every single year, I have battled with anxiety. 2017, because it started in November, and it didn't end till February. So every year since these, those dates, 2018, starting in November, the anxiety would start. By December, it would be depression. January, February, I was crippled with the depression, just barely making it, up until 2019. 2020, I decided in advance, like those 30 days I spent with God in September, I decided, even in this moment, like, I'm emotional because I just praise God, saying that I give you dominion over all of this. I'm not going to spend another year with anxiety and depression. Last year, I actually got to the point where I was able to have a Thanksgiving dinner. Like, I cooked at home, I enjoyed family, but on New Year's Eve, I dealt with so much anxiety and depression. I couldn't function at church, bringing in a New Year's. I laid around playing My Cafe and listening to sermons and reading my Bible. I just couldn't really function. It was hard. I did make gingerbread houses with my son. I was excited. I played Christmas music, but I still dealt with anxiety and depression. So going into this holiday season, I said, that's not going to be my life. I refuse to allow that to be my life. And one of the things that I realized my anxiety comes from is the fact that I went through a season of health issues that could have been deadly. And not only that, I was tormented by someone and all the domestic violence. So those two things coupled kind of like did something to me. So I always dreaded, since 2017, November through February of each year, those are difficult seasons for me. I would have indoor gardens. I had a lion head rabbit at one point. Like, it was just a lot for me. But this year I said no more. I'm acknowledging that season was devastating for me, that I have a fear of being sick. I have anxiety around this season because of what he did to me. I have this fear of staying home by myself now at night, or now I live somewhere different where I'm in a house and I have 2 entry points on the ground level, and so it's just like every little sound wakes me up. I have some nights where I can sleep through the night, but other nights I can't, because everything wakes me up. I'm constantly looking out my windows. I have cameras inside of my house pointing at my living room and at my front door. I have a camera that looks out of my back door, my back window where my car is parked. Like, there is a lot that I realized that subconsciously I was going through and didn't realize it. I didn't realize I was actually afraid in that season because, like I said, I had to focus on my health. I didn't have time to be afraid of what would happen next. I had to focus on my healing. And so I've been dealing with that. And I've been saying, God, I can't do this without you. I give you access to this area of my life that I've been battling with year after year since 2017. I give you permission to enter it. I give you permission to start healing me. I give you permission to, take over, to flood me. Oh, and to be in a position of peace, of maintaining my peace, because nobody has the power to take away, disturb my peace. That's God given. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't take it away. But this fear is colliding with my peace. And so I had to acknowledge that aspect of it. And so I've been healing through it. I've been working on it. And I wanted to share this story in that season of my life, and tell somebody it does get better, and to start dealing with what happened to you. Start dealing with the things that trigger you about what happened to you, and acknowledge they're real. They're telling me that this is something in me that still hurts. This is something in me that still needs work. This is something in me that still needs healing, and that is okay. You may always have those slight triggers, but knowing that they're there, knowing that you need a scripture to help you to maintain your your position in the kingdom, and to remind you that you're rooted in God and you can't be moved. That has been everything to me, because here we are going into, like, we're mid-November, and I've been having smiles on my face. Yesterday I had, well, maybe it was early November, anxiety tried to creep up, and I was like, I went into prayer real quick. Today it tried to creep in. This morning I went into prayer real quick. I went into praise and worship. I was like, God, I know where it's coming from. I refuse to allow it to take over and to consume me. I just began to give God all the glory, the honor, and the praise that he deserves, because God is a mighty God, a powerful God. God is in it with me. God will never leave me nor forsake me. God kept me protected in a season of my life. I was free from hurt, harm, or danger, whatever the enemy was attempting to work up against me. You know, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. God didn't allow it to happen. The weapon formed, but it didn't prosper. God was like, no, you're still here. The depression came. The manic depression is what they diagnosed me with in 2017. It came, but it did not prosper. Now, you know, moving forward in 2018 and 2019, I had lighter waves of depression, but it still kind of crippled me. But I was like, no, I know what an attack feels like. I know what the attack looks like. So this year I'm going to be prepared for it. I'm going to praise myself through this winter. I'm going to give you all the glory, you know, and there'll be a season where I realize that this doesn't even faze me anymore. That did happen, but it does. I don't have to praise my way through like I did the years prior. And I told God I'm willing to do it year after year if that's what it takes. But I've been planting seeds down in me, you know, seeds of faith, watering my faith, because I had to realize that the word of God is not for God, but it's for me. It's for me to grab hold to those promises. It's for me to walk in his goodness, to walk in his grace, and to walk in his mercy, and to walk out my healing, and to walk out just my everything. And I just want to encourage people, men go through domestic violence too. At the time I was going through it, I worked at the Julian Center. There were men there also. Men go through it too. I want to encourage you that it does get better. Know your triggers, acknowledge your triggers, deal with them accordingly. Have healthy conversations with people around you. In the season that has devastated you the most, it is important to have people surrounding you who genuinely love you and want to see you win. That is everything, and that is what I had to do. And so I prepared myself. Okay, every November, December, January, and February, you go through these emotions. You can slip deep if you allow yourself to, but you're decreeing that you will never, this won't be your life. You won't have to prepare like this no more. But right now you do, but that's okay. I prepared in advance, planning activities. You know, every Friday my cousin and I have cousin couch time. That's what we call it, and it's nice. I have something to look forward to. I make plans with my son. I make plans with my family. I choose to get out of the house, but I don't even run from it anymore by going to this person's house and that person's house. Instead, I'm dealing with it head on, saying, nope, God, I can't do it without you. So just having that time with God, whether I got to do it once a day or 3 times a day, or whether I have to play Christian music and sermons all day long, I'm choosing to enjoy this year, this holiday season. I have a man in my life that I absolutely adore and I love. Oh my gosh, I love him so much. He has been instrumental to me. And I never thought that I would be loved in the manner that I was loved, because I remember that individual that I went through the domestic violence with telling me that I'll never find anybody to love me, that I was just not worthy of anything, and I believed it. So much so that I walked year after year settling into dating people that were unequally yoked, that, you know, feeling like I wasn't meant to speak, that I wasn't meant to do these different things that God called me to do. And so this person in my life reassures me, reaffirms me, is in alignment with my purpose, and I really love him. I do. Anyways, he just shows me that my latter can be greater than my former. And so I want to say that good can come from that season of your life, that God is still in the blessing business. God is still doing a great work in you and through you. And God is going to bring people in your life that are for you, that understands what you went through and your need to heal and grieve and move through your emotions accordingly, and to not give up, and to not give in, and to not lay down, and to not allow that situation in your life to determine the course of the remainder of your life, to give it over to God, to allow God to take it, take that pain away from you. That fear, that anxiety, that depression, or whatever, however it affected you, to allow God in, is everything. So it feels like relief to share this. Because every year I just go through, went through anxiety, and I'm not even gonna say I go through that, because that's claiming that. Every year prior to this one, I had went through anxiety and depression. I would literally see something on me and just be like, oh my God, I must have something, I'm gonna die, or this is gonna happen, or that is gonna happen. And I'm in and out the ER because of the health issues I had went through, and I had to understand the root cause of why I dealt with that. And then I had fear and anxiety and couldn't sleep, and I was paranoid and just at home, just couldn't do anything. I had to realize where that came from, and just no longer claiming that, no longer walking in that. And I will keep you all updated on how the remainder of this year is going for me and how I'm dealing with everything. But I really wanted to share this, and I pray that my story and allowing you all to get to know me more, and I'll share more about the scriptures I use to overcome that season, that aspect about battling health issues that I stood on, and the domestic violence, and making me feel as if I was not worthy, and all of that. I'll go into detail and go through the Bible on how I overcame those feelings of unworthiness after leaving a situation so toxic and damaging. I do plan to do more content like that. But I love you all, and I pray that you all have a blessed day. This was so healing for me. It was so renewing and restoring. I needed this more than, I think this video was for me. So I said I didn't care if anybody watched my content, because I'm doing it for God. I'm doing it for God to get the glory. But this was for me, and I'm gonna upload it anyway, because I know a part of it being for me, it's being willing to share my story. I love you all. I adore you. Have a blessed day.